Hey everybody, welcome back to One Seed, One World. So today we are going to talk about a garden disease that can really wreak some havoc on your plants. Not only in the garden, but also with some of your trees, shrubs. There's a lot of plants that are susceptible to it. So today we are going to be talking about Verticillium wilt. Okay, so you see here behind me, I have this big old maple tree, and this tree has been here for quite a long time. My parents bought this house in 1989 when I was still a teenager and moved here, and then I bought this house in 2012 from my dad. Now, this big old maple, if I can get it up, you can see it goes pretty high up there. It's a great big tree that has provided shade for our whole yard throughout the summer months. It's been a wonderful tree. However, it is now affected by Verticillium wilt. And I say now affected, it's actually been affected for several years now, and maybe even longer, but it was in the last several years that we noticed it. We started losing some limbs, things just started dying off, and we had to start having some of the limbs cut out. We had a tree company come out, check it out, and they did some testing and found out that this tree has been affected by Verticillium wilt. And so it is slowly dying off, and unfortunately, probably within this next year, we're gonna have to take the rest of the tree down because so many chunks of it have already been taken out, and some of the parts that are left over are kind of heavy on one side, and so now there's concerns that if the decay that has affected the tree has gotten too deep, some of these big limbs could come down, take out our garden deck, our pool, who knows what. So let's talk a little bit about Verticillium wilt and what it can do to trees, shrubs, and also many plants in your garden. Okay, so what is Verticillium wilt? It is a fungal infection that gets into the soil and then will get up into your plants, trees, shrubs, or flowers and basically cause a lot of damage to their vascular system that over time will prevent them from getting the right nutrients out of the soil, getting water transferred through the plant, all those sorts of things, and eventually will kill off your plant, flower, shrub, or tree. There are tons of different plants that can be affected by this. From trees, it's things like ash, elm, box elder, maples, and a lot of other different trees. In trees, it kind of manifests itself. You can kind of see symptoms. You might not notice them right away, but you might start having limbs die off. The bark might start to split. And then if you actually get into the bark or cut off one of the limbs, you'll see like these black and brown streaks in it as the fungal disease moves its way through the plant. In other types of plants, like in your garden plants, it can affect things like tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, pretty much all of your cole crops, things like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbages, they can be affected as well. Also things like cucumbers, pumpkins, watermelons, cantaloupe, squash, there's so many different things that can be affected by this horrible fungal disease. And then as well as flowers, things like dahlias and snapdragons, even dandelions can be affected. And there's different weeds that can be affected as well. So once it is in your soil, it can definitely spread and affect a lot of different plants in your yard or garden. When it comes to your garden plants, you'll kind of see it. The symptoms may be browning and yellowing of leaves as it kind of works its way through. Sometimes it will only be on one side of the plant and not on the other. It just depends on how it manifests itself and works its way through the plant. And so you can look for those kind of things. Now, there are other types of fungal diseases that will affect your garden plants that look similar. So just because you have browning or yellowing leaves doesn't necessarily mean that you have Verticillium wilt in your soil, but it could be an indicator. So how do you get rid of verticillium wilt? Well, you can't really. Once a plant is infected, there's not a cure for it. There's not like a spray for it or anything like that. There are only things that you can do to kind of help reduce the problems that you have with it. So let's go over a couple of those things. When it's in a tree, like my maple here, there is some treatments that you can give the tree to slow the spread of the disease to keep the tree alive longer. But over time, you will eventually lose that tree. We did have one treatment done. It's where they do some injections like around the base of the tree. It only goes, and then it's going up into the tree. I think they may even do some stuff on the tree itself. And that can help slow the extent of the disease. But as I said, over time with trees, you eventually will have to have the tree removed because it's eventually going to just keep dying off. And so that's at the place that we're at now. We've already been dealing with this for several years. Ours, I think, was so extensive at the time that we started the treatment that by then it didn't really do a whole lot, because even within a year or two of us doing that initial treatment, we had to have multiple limbs still taken out, and there's other ones still dying off. I noticed this year the maple is putting off all those little helicopter seeds on where some of the branches, that's the only thing it produced. It didn't even produce regular leaves because the tree is trying to save itself and perpetuate itself by putting out more seeds to spread. The problem is that because it's in the soil, new maples that would be, say if we took this maple out and planted a new maple there, it would probably be infected as well. And so putting another maple here will not be in the future plan. So how does it spread, right? I mean, it can be in your trees, your shrubs, your garden plants, whatever. How does this stuff spread? So it can be brought in if you bring in some infected soil, because it is a soil-borne fungus. If you get transplants that have the plants that are already affected, or maybe in the soil that you get with the transplant, it can happen that way. It can happen through some heavy rains where the soil washes into your infected soil, washes into your yard. And it can also happen in dry weather because airborne soil particles can also carry the fungal spores along with it. So it's hard to get away from if it's in your area. Now, Verticillium wilt does occur, or prefer, I should say, cool conditions. It likes cool soils, cool weather. And so here's some mitigation things that you can do to help reduce the problems that you may have with it. Since it likes the cool soils, for your garden, for example, if you have a garden bed, if you put black plastic over it over the winter where it's going to heat up that soil, that can help kill off a lot of the early spores and reduce the spread of it. If you can raise your soil temperature to be pretty hot, it's not going to like that and can keep it kind of at a minimum. If you've already had infected areas, you want to remove those plants as you see them. Don't put them in your compost, put them in, burn them, get rid of them to kill off any spores and to prevent a future spread. Another way that you can help prevent it is there are different varieties of plants that can be disease or that are resistant to Verticillium wilt. There's different varieties of tomatoes, things like Sun Gold, Big Boy, Champion. There's a few others that have been they're hybrids, so that they have taken on the characteristics of being resistant to this type of disease. Now, a hybrid is not to be confused with a GMO. I'm not talking about GMO type plants. You can't get GMO tomato plants anyway, but hybrid is something that would occur naturally in nature. But in hybrid cases of like tomatoes, they've been given some help from humans to kind of intermix two different breeds that will be more resistant to the disease. But it's a completely natural occurring process. It's not like they're injecting them with some things that wouldn't happen naturally in nature by itself. So you can get these hybrid varieties that are resistant to the disease. Same thing, there's a lot of different types of tree varieties. Not even all of them are hybrids. I mean, there's things like tulip magnolia and oaks and other types of trees that, you know, are not affected by the disease. So you can kind of plan ahead. If you're planting trees, look for ones that are resistant to these types of fungal infections. So, you know, and that's the same thing with any of your flowers and other garden plants. Look for plants that are resistant to the disease. Now, in some cases like tomatoes, they will have some of them may come with a V on the label. The V normally means that they are resistant to Verticillium wilt. So you can look for that as well. But if you do a little bit of research, just Google them, talk to your local plant purveyor on what type of plants they're selling. And if you want to plant these types of varieties in your garden that are resistant to the disease, then that will help you along your way as well. And so that's a little bit about Verticillium wilt. It can be a silent killer in your garden and can wreak some havoc, cause you to lose your plants early, cause you to, over time, lose large trees, can kill off some of your flowers, other herbs, and things like that. So you need to be vigilant on learning about these different diseases in your garden and learning ways that you can help mitigate them, reduce their spread, and you know, keep your garden happy and healthy. One final way that you can help mitigate your issues is by having good, strong, healthy plants. Keep up with healthy soil, give it good organic fertilizers, keep up with your watering, you know, do things that make a happy, healthy plant to begin with, because then they're going to be stronger to fight the diseases if they come anyway. So I know that now that we are in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, this is a weird time to be talking maybe about garden diseases, but I wanted to give you guys some information on things to be prepared for the 2024 season. And we'll probably cover some other diseases as well as some new types of plants that you can put in your garden this year, some ideas for new varieties. And these are some of the things I want to cover this winter to help you get prepared for the 2024 planting season. But I appreciate that you're hanging out with me again today. If you haven't already, please subscribe and put them down in the comments. Let me know if you've, you know, had to deal with Verticillium wilt, whether it was from a tree, a shrub, or dealing with it in your garden. Let me know how you dealt with it and things that worked for you or things that didn't work for you. But that's it for today. We will see you again soon. Have a great day. Namaste.